It started with a sound that seemed to defy the laws of biology. A 7-year-old girl with a voice that felt like it had been aged in a whiskey barrel for 50 years. When Angelina Jordan first walked onto the stage of Norway's Got Talent in 2014, the world didn't just see a child performer. They witnessed a phenomenon that left seasoned music critics questioning everything they knew about vocal development. This wasn't the typical high-pitched, sugary performance associated with child stars. This was something darker, deeper, and infinitely more complex. The footage of her singing Gloomy Sunday went viral instantly, racking up millions of views and sparking a global conversation about whether talent like this is born or if it's a haunting remnant of a past life. But behind the standing ovations and the tears of the judges, a much more complicated story was beginning to unfold. As she transitioned from a local curiosity to a global superstar, the pressures of the industry began to close in, leading many to wonder if she would become another casualty of early fame, or if she was truly the once-in-a-generation artist she appeared to be. The mystery of her old soul became the foundation of a career that has been as much about silence and strategy as it has been about song. While most 7-year-olds are navigating the basics of primary school, Angelina Jordan was being analyzed by some of the most powerful executives in the music world. Her victory in Norway wasn't just a local win. It was a seismic shift that forced the industry to look toward Scandinavia for the next big thing. Reporters at the time noted an almost eerie calm in her demeanor, a stark contrast to the explosive, gravelly power of her jazz-infused vocals. However, with this instant fame came the first wave of controversy. Rumors began to circulate about the coaching behind her performances, with skeptics suggesting that her unique style was an imitation rather than an authentic expression. Yet, those closest to the production insisted that Angelina was the primary driver of her own creative choices, often selecting songs that were decades older than her own parents. This early period was marked by a frantic scramble for her signature, with major labels seeing dollar signs in her vintage aesthetic. But as the hype reached a fever pitch, the young singer did something unexpected. She stepped back. Instead of immediately capitalizing on the win with a commercial pop album, she retreated into a period of study and refinement, a move that many industry insiders labeled as a risky disappearance during her peak momentum. This silence only served to heighten the mystery, as fans across the globe began to ask if the Oslo miracle was already over before it had truly begun. In the world of high-stakes entertainment, branding is usually handled by multi-million-dollar marketing firms, but Angelina Jordan's most iconic trademark was born from a heartbreaking encounter on a dusty street. For years, audiences have watched her perform barefoot, a choice that many assumed was a bohemian stylistic quirk or a way to ground herself on stage. However, investigative reports later revealed a much more somber origin story involving a young girl Angelina met while traveling. The story goes that Angelina gave her own shoes to a child who had none, and upon seeing the harsh reality of poverty, she made a vow to remain shoeless during her performances as a sign of solidarity. This barefoot manifesto became a point of contention among critics. Some praised it as a rare display of genuine empathy in a superficial industry, while others cynically questioned if it was a calculated move to maintain a pure image. Regardless of the intent, the image of the barefoot prodigy became a powerful symbol that separated her from her peers. It signaled that she wasn't just another product of the Hollywood machine, but an artist with a moral compass. But as she grew older, the logistics of this vow became more difficult to maintain, leading to internal conflicts between her personal convictions and the professional requirements of major touring venues. This silent protest remains one of the most intriguing aspects of her persona, serving as a constant reminder that her career started with a sense of purpose that went far beyond mere fame. When Angelina Jordan made her triumphant return to the Got Talent stage for the 2020 Champions season, the narrative seemed written in the stars, until the final results were read. Her performance of "Goodbye Yellow Brick Road," wasn't just a cover. It was a reimagining that earned her a golden buzzer from Heidi Klum and left Simon Cowell uncharacteristically speechless. She was the undisputed favorite to win, with social media metrics showing her as the most discussed contestant of the season. However, when the superfans' vote was tallied and she failed to take the top spot, the internet erupted in a way that the franchise had never seen before. Allegations of a fixed competition began to dominate headlines, with fans pointing to the lack of transparency in the voting process. Journalistic deep dives into the show's mechanics suggested that the production might have favored an act that was easier to market for a Las Vegas residency, rather than a sophisticated jazz vocalist. The fallout was massive, sparking a wave of justice for Angelina hashtags and leading to a significant dip in the show's credibility among international viewers. This wasn't just a loss on a reality show. It was a moment where the old soul clashed with modern entertainment politics. The controversy forced a conversation about how we value raw talent in an era where marketability often trumps artistry, and it left Angelina at a crossroads. Would she play the industry game, or would she forge a path entirely her own? Signing with Republic Records, the home of icons like Taylor Swift and Drake, is usually the moment a career goes into overdrive, but for Angelina Jordan, it marked the beginning of a frustrating and mysterious period of silence. Following her AGT success, the world waited for the debut album that would surely cement her place in music history. Instead, the months turned into years with very little output. This blackout period led to intense speculation about label jail, a term used when an artist is legally bound to a company that refuses to release their music. Rumors surfaced that there was a massive tug-of-war happening behind closed doors. The label reportedly wanted a modern, radio-friendly pop sound, while Angelina was adamant about staying true to her soul and jazz influences. This creative impasse became a cautionary tale for young artists. Reporters noted that during this time, her social media presence remained cryptic, with brief clips of her in the studio that teased a sound far more experimental than anything her fans expected. The tension reached a breaking point as fans began to lobby the label for her release, fearing that her prime years were being wasted in a corporate boardroom. It was a high-stakes game of chicken between a teenager and a multi-billion-dollar corporation, and the outcome would determine if she remained a prodigy or evolved into a legitimate artist with her own voice. The transition from child star to adult artist is a minefield that has destroyed countless careers, but Angelina Jordan's move to Los Angeles signaled a calculated and radical transformation. When she finally re-emerged from her period of relative silence, she was no longer the little girl in the white dress. She had undergone a physical and musical glow-up that left the public stunned. This wasn't just a change in fashion, it was a fundamental shift in her identity. Now living in the heart of the music industry, she began collaborating with high-level producers like Toby Gad, the man behind hits for Beyoncé and John Legend. However, this transformation wasn't without its detractors. Longtime fans expressed concern that the LA Machine was finally sanding down her edges, making her sound more like a contemporary pop singer and less like the timeless vocalist they fell in love with. News outlets began to document her new lifestyle, the high-fashion shoots, the exclusive events, and the move toward a more polished aesthetic. Yet beneath the glamour, there were signs of a deeper struggle to maintain her European roots while navigating the hyper-competitive American market. This period of her life was characterized by a push and pull between the artist she was and the superstar the industry wanted her to become, raising the question: can a soul of the past truly survive in the superficial landscape of modern-day Hollywood? Carrying the weight of being the next version of a deceased legend is a burden that has broken many, and the constant comparisons between Angelina Jordan and Amy Winehouse have created a narrative that is as dangerous as it is flattering. From the moment she first sang a jazz standard, The media has been obsessed with the idea that she is the spiritual successor to the late, Back to Black singer. This comparison goes beyond just the vocal tone. It extends to the sad girl aesthetic and the mature, often melancholic themes in her music. Investigative reports into the psychological toll of such comparisons suggest that it puts an immense amount of pressure on a young woman to live up to a tragic legacy. Rumors about her well-being and the intense expectations placed upon her have frequently surfaced in online communities, with fans worried that the industry is exploiting her old soul persona at the expense of her youth. Angelina has often addressed these comparisons with grace, stating her admiration for Winehouse while subtly trying to carve out her own space. However, the shadow of the comparison is long. Every time she releases a new track, it is held up against the greatest soul records in history. This section of her career has been a masterclass in navigating public perception, as she tries to honor the legends who came before her without being consumed by the tragedies that often followed them. As we move through 2024 and into 2026, the question of what happened to Angelina Jordan has been replaced by a much more exciting inquiry. What is she about to do next? Recent reports from the LA music scene suggest that she has finally found the balance that eluded her for years. She has been seen in high-profile live sessions that strip away the pop production and return to the raw, unfiltered vocal power that first made her a star. These performances have gone viral once again, proving that the public's appetite for her specific brand of soul is stronger than ever. Furthermore, there is a growing buzz about a secret project involving major film soundtracks and a potential European tour that would see her return to her roots. However, she remains a master of the slow burn, refusing to rush her art for the sake of the 24-hour news cycle. This deliberate pace has kept her relevant while other former child stars have faded into obscurity. She is now standing on the edge of a new era, one where she is no longer a prodigy, but appear to the very artists she once covered. The current horizon for Angelina Jordan looks like a blend of mystery and mastery, as she prepares to release a body of work that insiders say will finally bridge the gap between her jazz beginnings and her future as a global icon. Angelina Jordan's journey from a barefoot 7-year-old in Oslo to a sophisticated artist in Los Angeles is more than just a success story. It's a study in the survival of talent. She has navigated the pitfalls of reality TV, survived the pressures of a major label blackout, and managed to keep her integrity in an industry that often demands the opposite. Her story forces us to look at how we treat young talent, whether we nurture it or simply consume it until it's gone. As she moves forward, she remains one of the few artists who can truly claim to be timeless in an era of disposable hits. The real question isn't just what she will do next, but how her voice will change the landscape of music for the next generation. One thing is certain: the world is still listening, and the barefoot girl with the old soul isn't done telling her story yet.